All right, so welcome to episode 11 of Just Add Movement. I'm Erin Anderson, and today we get to jam with the lovely Lizbeth Hamlin. So, Lizbeth is a psychotherapist, consultant, transitions mentor, and depth practitioner with over 50 years of experience. Lizbeth works with individuals and couples using a Jungian-oriented model, authentic movement, somatic awareness, EMDR, and Santre to support what she calls the longing to become more deeply oneself. She has spent decades accompanying women through some of life's most tender thresholds, including grief, trauma, creative blocks, and breast cancer diagnosis and treatment. Lizbeth, welcome.
Thank you, Erin. It really is. It's a privilege and just to receive these questions, to receive the the invitation to just deepen with those questions has felt very touching to me.
Oh,
Um,
well, wonderful. On that note, we'll just dive right in because
Great.
we just flow from one to the next. And given the breadth and depth of your experience, I want to make sure we can take it all in. So, question number one, Lisbeth. What do you know to be true about the body based on your body of work?
Well, it's taking me into some early beginnings,
Hmm.
and some of the early beginnings is when I was a student in both undergraduate and graduate. I always paired it with a dance department.
Mm-hmm.
So there was something about the necessity of learning the psychological work, the Jungian journey, the depth, and to move my body. And I was fortunate to have some marvelous, marvelous teachers along the way, and that I stayed with it. Like from 19 mid 1970 70s is I think when I was introduced to authentic movement, and I had incredible teachers going back to Joan Chodorow, Janet Adler,
So, really,
you
the
know.
matriarchs of what
Hmm.
has become dance movement therapy.
Right, right. And I had already gotten my master's degree and had gotten myself licensed as a psychotherapist in California. And I actually did go back thinking that I should go ahead and get my master's in dance therapy, and I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. I didn't have the ability to study in the same way. And and from that time, I met Tina Stromstead back then in the mid '70s, and we are colleagues to this day. So, who's contributed so much to being a Jungian analyst and the studying of the embodiment of the deep, deep psychic territory.
Well, Lisbeth, what I am so excited to follow up with you based on what you just shared. Given that you've been in the field of supporting people through their bodies, through movement, through the depth work that you do, you know, you've watched different trends in how people relate to and with their bodies. And so I guess I'm curious what has stayed the through line for you in your body of work regardless of trends, and where you may find yourself from beginning student until now with being in a culture where embodiment is very spoken about now.
Yeah. Well, I want to just follow with where you are right now because your hand gestures have been really active here, going from one hand to the next hand. And in some ways, that's where I begin, oftentimes in my work, when there are gestures that are happening in Jungian terms, it's like, let's illuminate that.
Yes.
Sometimes eyes open, sometimes eyes closed. I just will take energetically, I just know that maybe that motion is connected to something because it's an expression of us. And so I may just say, can we pause just for a minute? Would you like to just keep going with that? Whatever gesture you had going, and it was a beautiful one, by the way, Erin, had a lot of expression in it. And I might just go with that. See where your body wants to go.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be happening in an individual, with an individual, it could be happening in a couple, where things begin to then slow down. It's very common for me to tell people that I work with that there may be moments in our work together that I will just go, let's just take a pause. Check in, listen to your breath. Is there anything in this moment that you want to say? So that we come more back into our body, which has its own rhythm. And after years and years and years, it has its own intelligence. But we have to listen. We have to take the moments to listen.
Yes.
And so as I see your gestures going across our squares, my arm is going across but not entering your square, is that there's something about what our bodies do in response to language, image, emotion, even thoughts. The body is reflective of what's going inside, and the slowing down to that feels to be the way in.
So you might then summarize that with, that the body is intelligent, that the body requires us to slow down and listen. And what have you found to be true about all of the years of witnessing bodies exploring gesture and movement? What have you found to be, from that belief in the body's intelligence, from this slowing down and exploring and illuminating, then what does that yield for people?
Well, over time, I'll just speak more on a personal level,
Mm-hmm.
and also from witnessing people for a very, very long time, that there's an inner stillness that can enter that then feels in some ways like that stillness expands. And it expands outside of our normal realm of knowing. And that in that expansion of the stillness or the awakening of the body's intelligence, we get to know something that has been just out of view. But in that out of view, is then an insight or an emotion or a memory or even tears of what's true, what's really true for this person can then emerge.
And so as you share that, what do you notice in your own body right now, sharing and reflecting on that?
Well, I feel like we just opened together in that moment. I could see this on your face and I could feel it in my own body of, this sort of like opening. I'm sitting in a chair, so I don't have that fullness of the whole body, but I feel this allowing. And in some ways, sometimes what my thought is or suggestion, can you be a little friendly towards this? What is emerging or happening? And that allows the opening of a possible non-judgmental inner witness to come what I would call a little bit more visible or on board.
And so we welcome that kindness and compassion into this space as we transition and ask something maybe a little more personal to you. You know, given that this podcast, this interview series, as I call it, talking to people about thresholds in their lives, you know, you've supported so many in their threshold moments. I'd like to ask you the second question, which is, what threshold are you leaning into right now, Lizbeth? And how you answer it can be anything, but I welcome a personal, professional threshold, all of it together, whatever emerges.
Well, I'm a little bit in this recognition and I can't say shock, but awareness, just sort of awareness of going 50 years. You've been practicing for 50 years. And, one side can be, really? How did that happen? And there's also the other side of going, I'm still here and I'm not done.
Yes.
So there's a way of integrating my own inner witnessing, and I feel like at this point I work, Erin, much more energetically. That even if I've seen somebody for a long time, every time they walk in, whether they're in person, and I love working in person, I'm old school in that way, and or in our squares, as if I have never seen them before. That is just fresh. That is just in that moment we are awakened to just the now, right now. We have enormous amounts of stories. And some of those stories are true and some stories are not true. So in some ways it's this weeding out, and I feel like I'm weeding out some of my own stories of, have I offered enough? Have I done enough? And in many ways it says, yes, I have done enough, I am enough. And yet the service to be able to have a strong body and good health, and I still have my mind, it's like the service now feels like it's a spiritual practice. So in this spiritual practice of sitting with people or teaching in a group, it's like, and like in this moment, it's just like, what's here right now? And what's here right now is you and I are having an intimate opening that has questions, and we're using language, but there's much more happening. It's almost like we have a chance that our molecules can change just a little bit by being in connection with another.
And I want to breathe and feel that even just a little bit more. And I welcome us all to take a collective breath. I invite us into that at different times throughout our recordings when it comes clear that we all get to breathe just a little bit more together and to feel even just a little bit more of what we're receiving and what's awakening through, in this case, Lizbeth's energy. And Lizbeth, I think there's a part of me that feels tender or emotional in my connecting with you around your threshold, wanting to just honor appropriately 50 years of service to a kind of work that I think can be hard for some folks to fully understand, the space that you have held for thousands of people. And I don't know how you feel about this word, because a word can have stories, but I just feel like I am in the presence and we are able to witness like someone who is eldering us into a deeper place.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel so much gratitude.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
I'm curious what you experience and what language you would bring to this threshold. I mean, you already are describing it beautifully. Do you call yourself an elder? Like, how do you relate with labels and words to define thresholds that are obviously so much bigger than words?
Mm-hmm. Well, there, I mean, I've had to move into my sort of my elderhood, you know. I feel like I've been wiggling into it now that, I'm past my mid 70s, you know, and um, and yet I don't feel that age. There's a chronological kind of thing, weird thing, and the cultural thing where, you kind of disappear. It's like you're invisible. You know, you're old. I don't carry that.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that the energy actually gets pure. And that it's not so much an elder, it's more that I've moved into my wisdom years
Mm-hmm.
or my wisdom offering. That there's a place where some of what I do in my life and do when I'm with people it's effortless. I'm no longer having to use, I mean, it's here, my cognitive is still here, but it's more of what's going to emerge when we're going to be together. Like right now, what do we do? It's like this energy between you and me and the audience, that's here, is taking place. So it's more of there's something relaxed. There's no hurry, and so that the moment can open up. And
I don't know.
if that's what eldering is, it's all okay.
Yes. Well, and I'm feeling your presence in that description and feeling welcomed in to match that and attune with you. I'm wondering, I'm curious. I know you have a full practice, and maybe you always have for 50 years. I'm just in my mind imagining, I bet people just want to come be with you to experience your wisdom offerings
Sometimes, I mean, I have a few people that I've worked with for a long time, and that's what we do. We just sit together in what's here.
Mhm.
You know, where I can't say that it's always that simple because I also have a lot of clinical skills and
Mhm.
assessments to do to see what is really needed,
Mhm.
and that is still true of my psychotherapeutic background and clinical expertise. Is I don't just throw that away.
Mhm.
You know, I have a long term Soto Zen meditation practice and a Zen center that I have attended for a long time. And so there's something about that kind of practice, how it will show up, whether it's authentic movement, whether it's, working with a really deep piece of old trauma, if it's, talking about spiritual things that people won't talk about, that are secrets, you know, um, or, I've been privileged to work with incredible people through their grief. And that has been probably, and as I elder, as I age, it's happening a lot more frequently. And so there's something about my own personal early losses in my 30s that were unbearable, that here now in my mid 70s I can see what a teaching, it had been, such a long time ago, and then how I'm able to not just sit with, but witness and hold and not try to help people get over their grief, but to live in it, letting it have its own life and rhythm. And that, for me, that has been one of the deepest services that I feel that is now so needed on the planet, where in American culture, it's like going to get over it, just get over it, or aren't you over that yet? We're never over our losses. They just reshape themselves, and we're reshaped by them. So as one of those thresholds, of course, I ask these questions, how will that look? How will the next 20 years look for me? And I don't know. But what I do know is if I can stay present, and as present as I can in each moment, I feel like I have a better chance of being able to meet it however it is. And I also am a little bit of a, what do you call it? I'm a little bit of a health nutcase, in that I, make sure that I use my body and stay as fit as I can, and stay up on those appointments and this and that, so I can really choose, to stay embodied myself. Because if our health goes, or we can't stay embodied, we're really vulnerable. I'm really vulnerable. I will own that. I am really vulnerable if I don't do that.
So I think this is a beautiful place to kind of connect that what I'm hearing and experiencing from you about thresholds is that it's key to practice presence inside of the moment, and to stay moving in it and with it and through it. And so as we transition to the third question of what does your body know right now, how would you invite us to join you in movement to see what's present in this moment together?
Well, I think the first thing I would do is I would stand up.
Mm.
I sit so often, and I would
Yes.
just love to stand up.
And so, Lizbeth, we're just going to take 2-3 minutes. How would you welcome us into this moment through movement?
So I'm going to describe how I enter, and everyone enters differently, but we all enter that, what I almost call like a sanctuary of our body. It's our sanctuary, And so I may just start with, it depends on where I am, but today my feet are on the floor, and I feel my feet are on the floor. I literally drop my pelvis down. I just sort of open and drop my pelvis and take a big breath. And I invite each person, when they are witnessing this, to find this in any way. I'm standing, Erin's standing, you might be on the floor in a chair. It doesn't make any difference. But just ask yourself, is there some part of my body that just wants to move on its own without any effort? And I will just describe right now, my back and arms and shoulders want to stretch and open. So I'm going to work with what I call the simplicity of open and closing. And that can be your hand opening and closing. It can be your fingers opening and closing. It can be your arms closing and opening. And just take a moment to just let your body go where it wants to go. And if sound wants to come at all, or your breath releasing,
And taking just another minute to see what else might want to emerge.
and within this last moment, this extended moment, just find how your body wants to conclude and stay present all at the same time. That it's not like there's a switch. It's just like going, oh, okay, where does this movement want to complete itself for this moment?
And from this place, with no rushing, slowly, slowly, noticing what you notice. And Lizbeth, from this place, in this moment, what does your body know? You can keep it upright or transition to your chair, but I just wanted to give you that option in case this position was key.
The knowing that I come to from this last gesture, the words, I'm here. My body, my soul, I'm here. And Erin, I will ask the same question. What do you know now?
It feels good, is the phrase coming.
Mm-hmm. And I would put that in an I statement.
I feel good.
Good.
So from this place, as we wrap up, I want to thank you, and I also want to invite you if there's anything else you would like to share that wants to be expressed before we conclude for today, what still wants to emerge and be shared?
I think lastly, I want to say that there's always the question of who is the witness. And I have found that as I witness you and I witness other people, that my witness and your witness have a language that we build together. And that through these years, these last 10, 15 years, that place where there's no duality and that we are not separate continues to emerge for me. And in that is the gratitude that we can share space together in this space today, where we can bow to one another in that gratitude and that awakening that we're in it together.
And so I welcome everyone to take a collective breath all together and receive Lizbeth's offering even just a little bit more, and finding your right way to acknowledge her share for yourself. If it's a bow or something different, let us all collectively find our right moment of ending and completion together. Thank you, Lizbeth.
Thank you, Erin.